Megan.
Hi, I'm Ash.
Ayo. Today we're gonna be gossiping a little bit about the that one time that people tried to ban theater.
Yes.
In America and England.
I wonder if it worked.
Probably not. Maybe for like a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's a little bit back today.
But like maybe not. Like we never know. Maybe it's still banned.
Originally we were gonna turn this into a drinking game where like we take a shot every time we are shocked at people of history because they were doing some crazy shit back in the day. But I'm just having a nice little glass of white wine while we chit chat because this is some heavy shit.
So Meg will be drunk, but I will be sober.
I'm not drunk. I'm
Meg
just
is
having
so
a good
plastered.
time. No, I'm not. Oh gosh, I promise I'm not.
No.
Okay, let us get into it, shall we?
Yes. Okay. So we're gonna be going back to October 1774.
Ooh.
So back then, basically America had beef with England, shocker, and they were like, we're gonna be really petty. And they were like, we are just gonna stop allowing theater, because they were like, one thing that England brought over was theater, and they just wanted to cut off everything.
So they were only doing like British plays at the time, because that's all there was.
Mostly, but
yeah.
I feel like by then there was probably like an influence, like we were influenced by it, so people started writing stuff. But it was mostly like British.
They were just mad because the British people like brought the theater over.
Yeah. So they passed this article of association in October, and this basically banned all trade with Britain until its grievances were met. And most of the article mentioned like trade factors, but then in article number 8, they were like, we will discountenance and discourage every species of extravagance and dissipation, especially all horse racing, all kinds of gaming, cockfighting, exhibitions of shows, and plays and other expensive diversions.
So they're basically like, we are not allowed to have fun. No one have fun.
Yes.
Everyone either go to war or like have a kid. No
or
fun.
Get back in the kitchen.
Precisely.
Exactly.
It's I love specifically all kinds of gaming.
Yeah.
Does that mean gaming like hunting? Like
I think
game?
So. Or like,
or just don't play like
mention
like don't play games.
No. They maybe it meant hunting, but it also meant like, what is it called? Gambling. Like those kinds of games. Yeah, so they were like,
they could have been a little bit more specific. Saying all kinds of gamings is just... Yeah. I mean, I understand, like, banning cockfighting. That's bad. But, like, horse racing... I mean, if they're banning horse racing, it could have a thing about, like, gambling. But they really just said no fun. Don't do anything fun forever.
Imagine if today someone was like, the president was like, we're banning gaming.
All the gamers would come out of, like... Oh, that would be insane. The Twitch streamers would just come out of the woodwork.
So funny, though.
Wow.
No gaming of any kind.
That takes touch grass to a new level.
Just because
making
we
it like a
hate
federal.
England. We hate England, so no one.
So no one else gets to have fun.
Yeah.
That is actually that would be so funny.
Las Vegas would be shut down.
The entire city is just a desert.
A ghost town. And this really, it just shows how much people, like, not people, but like people in Congress were like, I fucking hate theater. And how much they disrespected us back then. Well, I say us, but like the theater
as artists.
Yeah.
I'm personally offended by these people in the past because arts are like, it's what our entire, like, we're getting a whole degree. This is what we want to do professionally. And so for people to just want to get rid of it because of why? Like,
just because of
just because they feel like it. That's so stupid.
Yeah. So then this ban obviously caused a lot of people to get really upset, and then they start speaking out, and they start making articles, and they started like doing protests and all this stuff. And these were like, people were just saying that they were torturing colonies by performing classic plays. Like that was like the little...
Your art is torturing me.
Like,
what?
imagine being, like, imagine writing a play and someone being like, this is torturing me. Like,
like, don't watch it then. What
Leave
is your
the room?
Yeah, read the room.
You
First of
have
all,
to
read the
pay
room.
for the tickets.
That's you paid to be here, and you're gonna be mad? No.
And so because of this, a lot of big name playhouses they gave in, and then they just left. They were like, okay, so we can't perform in America. So then they just went to different countries.
That wasn't easy to do back then, though.
Yeah.
Like, leaving the country and going somewhere else is, like, really difficult.
I know. Imagine the entire UNCW theater department.
Just up and moving to Jamaica. Isn't that, like, in the notes here it says, yeah, the American company run by Lewis Hallam and David Douglas transferred to Jamaica.
Yeah.
It's the 1700s, and you're going to move to Jamaica just to perform your art, and that is dedication.
Imagine us getting Zach, Elliot, and Corey, and being like, guys, we gotta go to Jamaica.
Guys, we're moving to Jamaica to do plays. Like, I would just go get a different job at this point, but that's dedication to the craft.
Zach and Elliot would burn. They are so...
I hope that they get assigned to listen to this podcast because they're gonna be so. I don't know if they're gonna be offended or intrigued. They want to go to Jamaica probably. They're like, oh, Jamaica,
Island boy. That's what they're gonna be.
Island boy. Also, I also want to note we have that most of the theaters did not fight back and they were very agreeable with the law. But some were not so compliant. Did we have like some rebels?
Like loyalists. So just a refresher, loyalists are people that were loyal to England. Obviously, they were like, man, what the
I love
fuck?
theater.
What?
I love theater.
And everything else. Like, imagine them banning everything that you love from your home country.
And also no one wants you there because you're British.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Technically, they were all British, though, because they all came from England.
Exactly. That's why I was like, no one wants you here because you're British.
It's so messy. This is so messy. They just decided to hate a bunch of people.
Exactly.
Damn.
And it's where they came from. I would be like, bitch, remember your roots. Literally, remember. Where the frick did you come from? And someone named James Rivington wrote an article called "The Poor's Man Advice to His Poor Neighbor," and he talked about how the men were foolish because they were "quote unquote" assembling like gossip wives.
I feel like we're assembling like gossip wives right now.
Yeah, assembling like gossip wives aren't like that's not.
It's like the Real Housewives of the Revolution. That's good. They were the Real Housewives of the Revolution. I like that, but like. I feel like back then this would have been such an insult to them. Like they would have read it and they would have been like, "What the fuck? Did he just call gossip women?
Did he just call this women? I have a gun. I can vote. I am not a little
women. Yeah, it wasn't like the gossip part. It was that thing for like wives. Wives.
They said gossip.
Women.
Wives.
You're acting like women.
And then that's when they were.
So he wrote a little play. I believe that we have a little piece of that play here. Would you like to perform this with me?
Yes,
Would you like to be the husband and I'll be the wife?
Well, we're doing like a little theater in a something about banning theater.
Oh my god! See, we're rebels now, though.
I know.
Okay, you play husband. I'll play wife.
Okay. You've been heating your brain with romances and plays, such rants and bombast I never heard in my days.
Were your newfangled doctrines as modest and true, 'twould be well for yourselves and your poor country too.
Let's return to ourselves. If you've eyes, you will see your association big with rank tyranny.
You have read a great deal, with patient reflection. Consider one moment your courts of inspection.
In all the records of the most slavish nation, you'll not find an instance of such usurpation. You corrected me before.
I'm so
and
sorry.
I still said it wrong. That's the thing.
But
but I think what he was trying to do was James with this was trying to show how like the gossipy between like he's like.
So he was calling this like this is his form of calling them the gossiping wives. So this is okay.
They're gossiping with their wives. In this
I
story.
see. Okay.
A little bit of that. He was like, you're gossiping with you're gossiping wives, and this is a little play of you gossiping with your wives.
Damn.
Thank you. But if you think about it, he was also gossiping. So. But like he made his point. Maybe he loved to gossip. Maybe James.
At least he was self-aware about it.
Yes.
Yeah. He's like, you know what? I'm a gossip and I'm proud.
But these other people, Congress, they just really wanted all theater gone.
But I mean, was there like a religious stance where they're like, oh, because I know like Puritans back then were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, theater is bad. I mean, I literally just did something rotten this semester, and like in something rotten, there's like a group of Puritans that are like, music stirs the loins, and that's sin, and he's like, you can't do plays. So that was like a big religious part of like anything remotely that brought joy, like theater or the arts in general or music was just some kind of like Satan trying to get into your body. So was it, because I mean obviously religion played a huge role into Congress back then, so do you think it was like a religious point of view?
I think in the beginning it was
like
definitely
a morality
just
sort of
theater.
thing.
It was just definitely like their association with England. And then like you know how like people are like when people don't really agree with someone they'll be like, and also it was because like it goes against our beliefs in Christianity, and then people are like, oh, okay,
You're
right.
right.
I get it.
You're
like,
right. You're right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I feel like the theater, not the theater, the religion thing was definitely like a backup. If like people were like,
that's how they got more numbers.
Like
that
England.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you like England, but do you like God?
Do you like
God says theater is
England
bad.
more?
Yeah, exactly.
Which one do you?
Are you going to heaven, or are you going back to Haverdasherum?
All because of a little play? Do you really? God said that theater is bad. And so they actually, oh my god, they actually tore down all like these theaters and everything.
Like the buildings, like actually demolished them.
Yes.
You could have just reused the building. Why did they have to tear them down?
I think they were used some of them, but like most of them, they were like, we want this like
my
gone.
God.
Absolutely, I know they were so crazy. And so, and if any of like people were still performing, they would be like sentenced and punished. And it was just a really hard time.
Do we know what kind of punishments? Like, it wasn't death.
No, they probably just got, like...
jail time or something.
A little slap on the wrist.
Throw them in the clink.
Yeah, they probably just got jail time. And maybe, like, their tea taken away.
That's very British. There was already no tea. It's already in the water. So how did this ban end?
Oh my gosh, do you want to take a guess? I don't think you'll get
I genuinely don't think anyone could guess.
Okay.
Let's give the audience a few moments to consider what they possibly think could be happening. If you have your guess, I can tell you right now that you're wrong.
Yeah.
Actually, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I do not ever want to hear someone say that men do not love the arts. Because in April 1778, 4 years after this was already like set out there, people banned
4
theaters.
years of theaters being torn down.
Yeah, and buildings got demolished. The President of the United States, he was out at war, and he was like, we are so bored. Like, we're bored. Like,
which president is that?
The George Washington.
George Washington brought theater back to America.
And he was out at war, and during war, I guess they had a lot of free time. And they were all like, what should we do to fill up these free times? And George Washington was like, I think we should put on a little
plays.
show.
Y'all ever hear of William Shakespeare?
George Washington was like, like let's get out a script or something. Like I wanna see you men act.
Okay, Sergeant, you be Ophelia. I'll be Hamlet. It'll be great.
He said, you wanna know what I've always wanted to like?
It's like he really wanted to be a theater major, but they made him be the president. That's what this feels like.
You know how people like cast their perfect shows? He did that. He did that, but with his men. He was like, in the perfect play, you would be Romeo. I'd be Juliet. And then like
this is actually where Hamilton came from. The Hamilton the play was written by George Washington during war.
No,
I'm
William
just kidding.
Shakespeare
That's not real. But
stole everything from George Washington.
Yes.
George
He's
Washington,
the father of theater. The founding father of theater.
You guys, so what if George Washington wrote letters to William Shakespeare?
Oh my god. He's like, hey man, I got a new script for you.
Willie, imagine this. So basically, at war, he was just like, you wanna know what? One of these plays, he picked Cato by Joseph Addison, which actually aligned with Congress's morals.
Okay.
And he was
so it was like a good, like, dipping your toes into the water of, like, see, it's not a bad play. We all like these things.
Yeah, and then it aligned with the hardships of someone who protested against the cruelty of Julius Caesar. And it was just so, like, it was so good that it became iconic. And it was also ironic because it was talking about how, like, someone protested against Julius Caesar. And, like, in a way, they were also protesting against Congress. But they didn't know it because they were at war. So they didn't hear news of this. And then officers actually began making their own plays. And then they started putting on more plays that they would write themselves.
Okay.
And I think this was just, like, a new meaning to guys' night. Like, imagine a bunch of guys today making plays and then performing them for each other.
All right, Corey, Elliot, and Zach, is that what you do on guys' night? They all get together and do Romeo and Juliet. They're like, dude, let's get some brewskis. I got some natty lights. All right, let's open up this script. Stage dark. Lights up. Curtain opens. It's me. Bro, that sounds great. Like, what?
I can just imagine it now. I think if they were to do it, then I definitely think Corey would be Juliet. And then Romeo, it would be a fight between Elliot and Zach.
No, I think Elliot would get Romeo, and then Zach would be, like, the nurse.
No. I think Zach would get Romeo, and Elliot would be the nurse.
You know what, though? Elliot would be a very good Mercutio. A plague of both your houses? Come on.
But now, just imagine, like, Elliot in, like, a nurse fit. Like, a maid fit.
Like a sexy nurse Halloween costume? Or like a wimple?
No, in a sexy nurse Halloween costume.
Everyone else is in Renaissance clothing, and then it's Elliot in a sexy nurse. It's like, oh, I misunderstood.
No. But is that not what... That's basically what they were doing back then.
I love that. Guys' night.
Like,
they're all, like, at war doing
know.
plays. That's actually very sweet and heartwarming, considering, like, that people were trying to get rid of theater. And the fact that it bloomed in a place like wartime America.
Yeah.
Like, that warms my little theater kid heart. You can't kill theater.
Yeah. If you try, then a man will stop you.
Period.
Imagine if Joe Biden was like, you're trying to ban theater. Fuck that.
I love Wicked.
I actually love Wicked. Like, I actually would want to be in it. And even just on Broadway. So, Congress, they heard that people at war were putting on plays. And they were like, what the hell? Did they not? So then they added something else.
But you can't go over the president's head. Like, if the president's out there doing plays.
I know. But, like, they were like, no, we got to put a stop to this. We got to tell Mr. President to stop. So they added something to, like, a little extra fluff to the article that was, like, adding them, like, subtweeting them. And they were saying that people in countries they reside in should not partake in such crimes.
Crimes?
Yes.
To the president?
Yes.
No.
And it's just so crazy that they tried to tell the people that were fighting for the country that they were like, that they shouldn't partake in what gave them joy. Like, they were trying to control them.
Dude.
With a little article injection.
These congressmen really had no idea what was going on.
Imagine the person that had to, like, walk up to George Washington and be like, yo, did you
gotta stop these plays, man.
Did you check the Congress? Did you check the articles?
Be the person that has to tell George Washington he can't do plays anymore.
They have to be like, they have to walk into his dressing room and be like, you gotta take that off. That's so funny. But the army, they enjoyed plays so much that they completely ignored this. And they kept on doing plays because that's what they loved. They were like, you're gonna try to stop me from reading the silly little text and dressing up in my silly little costumes. And no. So then after that, 6 days after, Congress passed another thing that was like, that any person holding an office under the United States who shall act, promote, encourage, or intend such plays shall be deemed unworthy to hold such office and shall be accordingly dismissed.
They're really trying so hard.
Yeah, they really hated that George Washington loved plays. But it was already too late because people started being like, well, if George loves plays, then I love plays.
Yeah, George Washington was a fan favorite.
Yes, respect for my president. Exactly. So states such as North Carolina, Georgia, New York, Maryland, and Virginia, they did not sign off on this act. They were like, let George do his silly little plays while he's off at silly little
Those
war.
are big states to get, like, drawn in, too, yeah.
It's so crazy because Congress really hated England.
Damn.
That they tried to stop our president at the time from doing what he loves. Try to stop Zach, Corey, and Elliot from having
boys' night. Boys' night.
The little playboys' night. But eventually, unfortunately, the American military had to get back to war.
Mm-hmm.
So theater began to die out, and the war people, like, it just slowly faded away. But theater already became, like, more acceptable, so then by the 1790s, it was legal again.
1790s, that's like 50 years of theater being illegal.
Yeah.
Like, you would go to jail.
Yeah.
As an artist, that is crazy to me. Like, who are we hurting?
I don't know.
I understand, if you're doing something problematic, like you're gonna go do some, like, Nazi play, that's different, because that's problematic. But, like, just for theater in general.
Yeah, but that was legal everywhere. Like, in different states, I'm pretty sure they started to accept it. But I forgot who was, like, the last state. But
probably, like, Wyoming or something. Was Wyoming a state then? Probably not.
We'll just say that it was.
Okay.
But 1778 was when this George Washington was like, I like plays. And then 1790, that was when.
Okay, so it was like 20 years of, like, actual discourse of, like, moving forward towards full legalization again.
You know how people, like, they travel out of state to get an abortion? People were traveling out of state to see a play.
Oh my god. That is insane. For it to be that, like, taboo.
Just to act.
Oh my god. Okay, well, I'm glad we landed at that conclusion. Let's take a quick break now that we've covered this, and we will come back with more soon. Okay, so now that we're back, and we covered the history of this, I want to talk about what do we think would happen if theater was banned today? Like, if they tried to, like, we already talked a little bit about it, but, like, how, like, if somehow Joe Biden was like, no more theater, I hate it, what would that affect in terms of, like, just our daily lives or, like, our country as a whole?
Well, obviously, we would have to find new jobs. Or we would have to move.
Get another bachelor's in something else.
Man, get a real job.
Ooh!
Could you imagine that? Well, definitely the economy, that would crash, because I did a little research, and $5.5 billion, that's how much profit we made in 2022 alone off of theater.
Wow. And that's, like, after coming back from COVID, too. Like, it's still coming, like, rising with theaters, like, just now starting to drop, like, mask mandates and everything. Like, especially Broadway specifically is, like, still growing after coming back from COVID. So for that to be, like, just 2 years after 2020 is insane. That's what is that? The market size growth is 10.7% over this past year.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it just keeps on going up. Because everyone loves a little play.
It is a big industry. And I feel like if that suddenly disappeared out of nowhere, we'd all go to jail. Like, none of us would stop. We would just go to jail.
I feel like we're all rebels.
We'd be in jail doing plays.
Together, at least. And then
all the theater kids would rise up.
Just imagine, like, as you were mentioning, how, like, we had to stop doing plays over COVID. And then, like, people still created art.
Like, we still did stuff. We still did. I mean, even over COVID, we had, like, those really awkward Zoom performances.
Oh, God.
Or, like, Zoom rehearsals. We've all had to deal with it now because it was rough, but we still had these artists all trying to connect and all trying to make something even when we physically couldn't. Do you remember on TikTok that Ratatouille musical that everyone made? All the musical theater kids did this Ratatouille musical, and then it literally got produced over Zoom. Like, it picked up funding and producers, and it became, like, a real project. So even, like, we literally couldn't go outside and interact with one another, but we still found ways to create. So I genuinely don't think that you could get rid of theater. You could ban it, but you can't get rid of it.
Exactly.
It's too much of a powerhouse at this point, and it's too important to too many people.
Yeah, and so many, like, artists, especially, like, film artists now, they start off with theater, and I think they get, like, a special little taste of theater.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the training begins with theater before they move to film. I mean, even stars like Hugh Jackman, Amy Adams, Morgan Freeman, like, we have so many actors. Timothy Chalamet started in theater. He did start on stage.
I know.
So many of our actors start with theater training, which is, I mean, I want to work professionally in film more so than theater, but I still have a degree in stage performance. So I feel like a lot of the training starts there. So if we got rid of that, we wouldn't have any of those big name stars that we have today.
Exactly.
Speaking of film, we actually do have a special guest here today. Hey, it's Jai. This is Jai McQuiston. He is a film major at UNCW, and you've been working in the film industry for, like, how many years now at this point?
I would say probably about 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah,
okay.
5 years.
So what do you do in film? What's your, like, history with film and theater, too?
Yeah, so I back in high school, I started in theater, my mom, forced me to audition for the little community theater show. And after that, one of the directors of the show was working in film, and he knew that I was going to school for film, and so he's like, "Hey man, like, why don't you come, get on set, come work with me, like, as like a little internship, and we'll get you started. You'll meet some really good people." So that's how I got my start, and that's through it was through theater first.
Okay. Sorry, I was
So
thinking.
without theater, you wouldn't be where you are
Like,
now?
do you think you would have gotten into the film, or at least gotten into it successfully? Like, would you have made the connections you have today if you had just dived right into film instead of making those theater connections first? Especially just in Wilmington, I feel like it's so close-knit.
Yeah, theater was very accessible to me. Growing up in Wilmington, having Thalian Hall right there, I definitely wouldn't have gotten my start as quick as I did. This is me as I think a junior in high school, still trying to figure out what I want to do. So I, listened to my mom, went to the audition, went out through all the rehearsals, and really got to meet a lot of people. Big stars get their start through theater. Gaten Matarazzo. Yeah,
he was on Broadway in Les Mis.
Yeah, he was really young when he got started, and now he's making millions of dollars, and he's I think he's just started college.
I don't think he would have made the connections he made to get him onto Netflix without his young theater career.
I would agree.
And I think most of the cast also started on Broadway.
Sadie Sink was on Broadway for a minute when she was little.
Yeah.
So what do you think would happen to your industry today? Because I know you're in film, but what do you think would happen in the film industry if theater was banned?
I have no idea.
Personally, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I feel like a lot of those budding artists that come from the stage wouldn't have a platform to get to film from there. Because like I said, I want to work professionally in film, but I'm starting on stage. So if I don't have the stage, if I didn't have the stage experience that I have now and the training I have from stage, I wouldn't be able to make it into the film scene.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of the film industry would suffer because we wouldn't have that new budding talent, the new people coming up through the theater scene, because I feel like they are so closely connected. At least in the professional world.
So many people intermingle between the both of them. Because I work with people that do theater, or they like work behind this stage at theater, but then they'll like also do that for film, or they do like film acting. And then it's just so interesting how many people get connections, or how many connections I've gotten just because I've done a little play.
I mean, John, you even, like, for student films, you've even been 2 casting calls at UNCW for the theater department to cast your short films.
Yeah, they have their auditions where
the general auditions.
Yeah, the general auditions, and so I had emailed one of the professors and asked if I could sit in. Then it was just me and the rest of the professors in the back just taking notes.
So like you wouldn't have found. Like, you found talent through those auditions, though, like, for your projects.
Yes, but I also like what Ashley said about how it's not just, the acting and stage performance. It's also a lot of the tech designers and people behind this, behind the scenes, but behind the, curtain that are, messing with lights and, figuring out all these different rigs to hook up to all these characters and designing set pieces, and these all directly correlate with the film industry, and it's it's very common that you see someone who is on set and you're like, oh, blah blah, where'd you get your start, and it's I don't want to say 9 times out of 10, but it's definitely a good half that get their start through theater one way or another, whether it's acting or tech.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the biggest part, even for those who aren't involved in the theater scene or don't think that the arts are very important, I know for a fact that you still watch Netflix every day, or you're still watching Hulu, or you're still going to concerts and supporting your favorite artists. But if we don't have live theater, if that was gone today, you wouldn't have any of that creation either. It all buds from that one centerpiece of creation in live theater, because that was what started it. Theater was before movies. Theater was before, like, huge concerts. Like, it all buds. I mean, that's what we learned in this class, is that it all buds from the very origins of theater across the globe. And so I feel like if we got rid of that today, I don't think people realize how much they would miss out on in their daily life.
And so many shows, like Fleabag, that got its start on the
that was
stage.
a play, yeah.
So I feel like we would also lose so many great shows that like go from the stage to the screen.
And it succeeds because it's reaching a wider audience at the screen, but it wouldn't be there without that origin of the stage, which I think a lot of people overlook if they're not in the theater scene. Like, if they don't know anything about it, they just, I don't know, they just assume that stuff shows up, but a lot of it just dates directly back to theater history. And I think it's incredibly important that we keep theater alive. And like we said earlier, I don't think you can kill theater at this point. It's become a beast.
Everywhere.
You cannot get rid of it.
So many people, they'll just write plays for fun. And I'm like, you are so many guys will just put on a little maid outfit and have
boys' night
where they just read plays. So imagine trying to kill that.
I don't think we could. I really don't think we could.
Stop guys' night.
I think theater is alive and well and will continue to get better, especially after coming out of the COVID pandemic.
And if we ever try to stop it, then I'm pretty sure George Washington will just come out from his grave.
Yep. He'll rise from the dead and get theater back.
And be like, not on my watch.
Not on my watch. Well, thank you for chatting with me today, Ashley.
You're welcome.
And Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
It was a lot of fun chatting. And I hope you guys learned a little bit about that one time some dudes try to cancel theater. And then George Washington saved the day.
No.
Well, thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Bye.